And it looks like we may have lost Brandon for a moment. So in the meantime, while he is reconnecting, we have several of you on. Several of you have joined us previously in previous sessions. I see a lot of familiar names. I see a lot of familiar faces. So tell me, how many of you all have heard of AI before? Raise your hand if you've heard of AI. Let me see
Or
those
do your
hands in the
electronic
air.
hand.
You have, yes. I'm so glad to see so many hands. You all have heard of AI. You've heard of artificial intelligence, right? Very good. I see a lot of heads nodding and heads shaking. So awesome. Brandon, I think, was able to rejoin us. And so let's see if we can get him back on board so that he can begin his talk. But tell me, what is it that you know about AI? What kinds of things do you know about AI? Oh, looks like Brandon is back with us, and he may be able to share with us a little bit further about AI. So we will turn it back over to Brandon. Brandon, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. Wonderful. Brandon, yes, you will be much better to present this material. So back over to Brandon, everyone. I did a poll while you were reconnecting, and pretty much everyone raised their hands that they know what AI is. They know about artificial intelligence, which is a good start. So we'll let you take it away and tell them a little bit about artificial intelligence in our agriculture.
Perfect. I apologize for dropping just now. I have a lot of security features on my computer, so anytime I join Zoom, it automatically does that when I'm sharing my screen to protect me. But good afternoon, good morning, everyone. As Rhonda mentioned, I'm Brandon, and I work at a company called NVIDIA, and I work there as a solutions architect. I'll try not to be too slide heavy today, so I'll just dive right in. I've been at, oops, what's going on here? I've been at, I don't know, this is automatically moving. I've been working at NVIDIA for a few months now. Prior to NVIDIA, I actually used to work with Rhonda at a company called NetApp. I apologize. I don't know why this is moving. Give me a second here. What is this doing?
Yes, Brandon and I did work together for a couple of years, right, Brandon? And that is actually, well, we actually met there and then also met through Heritage STEM Camp last summer when Mike Clark had attended the camp last year. So, and then he left me, everybody. He left me at NetApp, and he's on to doing bigger and brighter things. I'm still a little bit upset with him about it, but it's okay. He's got to do what he's got to do.
No, everything's all good.
Everything is all good, absolutely.
So while Brandon is coming up, some of the things that I want you all to think about from an artificial intelligence standpoint. So, in December, we have our pitch day. So as you're thinking about agriculture and what your innovative idea is, artificial intelligence plays such a massive role within architecture globally. So how do you provide food in unfunded or in distressed communities, or how you're able to make sure that medicine is being given to the elders so they don't have to go to the store. So that can be in drone technology. It can be in machine learning. So that's one of the words that you should probably Google and look up when you're thinking about creating your ideas. So AI is going to play a major role, and it currently plays a major role in everything that you do today. So I think, Brandon, I think we're up and ready for you.
We're good.
Okay.
Third time's the charm. Again, I'm Brandon. Nice to meet all of you all here. I'll talk a little bit about my background because I'm sure that's going to come up. The first question I'm always asked is, how did I get involved with AI? When I went to college, I actually did not study AI in undergrad. It was actually after college that I started to have an interest in robotics and drones. I've always had an interest in aviation, and I worked for a small startup company, and I got a chance to learn more about drones. I got a chance to learn more about robotics. I got a chance to learn about artificial intelligence. And once I got exposed to it, it opened up my eyes. I I don't think if I had I not gone to a startup, I don't think I would have gone into artificial intelligence because I had a different career path in mind. But I'm glad I was exposed to it. So if you have any questions about my background, feel free to ask them at any point. Rhonda will be moderating the chat. So at any point, if there's something that needs further clarification, just type it in the chat and I'll address it. Now. So while we're here today, the primary focus of this discussion is talking about artificial intelligence and agriculture. But rather than just talking about agriculture, I'll start, high level to discuss, what is artificial intelligence? You use artificial intelligence every day, many of you. And even if you don't think you're using it, you most likely are using it in some way, shape, or form. Even the applications that you use, even Zoom in itself uses AI. Many applications today use AI. It's just that they're so common that you don't think of it as AI. So not only will AI impact your life, it is currently impacting your life. So I want to show you a quick video about what is AI. This is, if you let me know in the chat if you guys are having trouble seeing this, but when I think of what AI is, this is the video that I first saw when I joined NVIDIA. I think it does a good representation of some of the many areas that AI is being covered in today.
I am an explorer. Searching for the origins of our universe. And charting a safer path to other worlds. I am a helper, moving us forward one step at a time. And giving voice to every emotion. I am a healer, modeling the future of medicine. And finding the needle in a haystack when every second counts. I am a visionary, uncovering masterpieces lost to the ages. And finding new adventures in a galaxy far, far away. I am a builder, driving perfection in everything we create. I am even the narrator of the story you are watching. And the composer of the music. When the world faces its greatest challenge, I give us the power to take it on together. I am AI.
I hope that showed you a little bit more about what AI is and that it is applicable in so many areas. That video was created by NVIDIA. We showed that video last week at one of our tech conferences. But as you can see, it is something that is very common. Um, there are some use cases that are even more common that you may use on the daily, like your smartphones. Many of you have smartphones, and to unlock your smartphone, you have facial recognition on it. That camera is using pictures of you to unlock your phone. Many of us use recommendation engines. If you've ever used Netflix, or you used, Amazon, or you shopped online, or you're looking for music, there's often a suggestion of similar music, right? You get this suggestion that says, hey, you may want to watch this show. You may want to buy this item as well. Those are called recommendation engines. And all that does is uses AI, and it looks at people who have similar buying habits as you, and it recommends items to you. That is a huge moneymaker for a lot of companies, because that means that they're able to keep you in their platform. It means that you're able to buy something from them as opposed to going to one of their competitors. And it doesn't require them to hire an additional salesperson to convince you to buy that item. Social media. Many of us actually contribute to AI every day. If you've ever used Facebook or any sort of social media platform and you tagged a friend, you are using artificial intelligence. There's a process when you're using AI called training. And what that means is, in order for the machine to learn what you look like or learn a particular behavior, you have to label the images. So when Facebook first started, several years ago, Facebook created this option of tagging your friends in photos. And we thought it was really cool, so everyone would know who's also in the photo. But what they were actually doing is training their AI. With every time you tagged a person, it was training them on what your friends look like and what you look like. And eventually, they had enough data, then the photos would tag themselves. It would make suggestions. You would take a photo and it would say, hey, are you with Brandon? And so you were using AI and actually programming that. You may not be familiar with CAPTCHAs, but we use them all the time. If you've ever gone to a website and you have to type in a little code to prove you're not a robot, or you have to click on all the clouds in a picture, or click on all the buses in the picture, those are used for security reasons, or when you're signing up for something or you're logging in. We use those every day. It is very hard for a computer to figure that out. So we basically train that system so that it recognizes a human versus another computer trying to break in or someone being hacked. Voice assistants, hey Siri, hey Alexa, these are very common. They use, hey Siri, it hurt me. And probably the most common one is emails. If you've ever had an email and you received a bunch of emails that you didn't like, you had the option of spamming it, putting it in your spam folder. That's how it used to be. And now it's to the point where things that seem to be spam, they are automatically put into a spam folder for you based upon previous things that you've put in the spam folder. So in that use case, AI is looking at previous emails and it's making a correlation between those emails that you receive that you labeled as spam versus any future emails that you receive, and seeing that they have similar habits in those emails and suggesting them to be spam or not. AI has been around for a really long time, actually. It started in the 1950s. It's gone up and down. So you've had cases where it was very prevalent and then it went away, and then it came back and then it went away. The reason being is all the ingredients weren't there at that time in the 50s for AI to thrive as it is doing now. There's three major reasons why artificial intelligence is so mainstream now and why you continue to hear about it. The first is declining cost of the actual hardware that you need to do AI. You can buy really big, expensive machines for $100,000, or you can buy something very small like this to do AI. This is a small, what we call GPU, graphical processing unit, which is similar to a CPU. The difference is you can process more information with this thing. So since since these devices are now cheaper and they're made for various use cases, more and more people can afford to get them. And now you're seeing AI being used. Another big reason is big data. In the last 2 years, 90% of the world's data has been obtained. I'll say that again. In the last 2 years alone, 90% of the world's data has been generated. And that's largely due to smartphones, IoT devices, cameras. We have a camera on essentially everything now. So all of this data is being generated. And lastly, we have better algorithms. When people created algorithms, an algorithm is simply a way of doing things, a process. We've been able to optimize those processes over time. And now that we have better algorithms, now that we have a large amount of data and we have cheaper equipment to actually process that data, we can now do cool things like AI. So I want to pivot and start talking about AI in agriculture. You may have heard of some applications for AI. Many people don't actually get to see the agriculture side of AI because in agriculture, it may not seem like an area in which there's much innovation, but in fact it is. I remember several years ago, my first internship in college, I was actually working and I was actually on a farm. And a lot of the things that we were doing were pretty old school, if you will. And it's amazing to see how much has changed in just a matter of, 6 or 7 years. A lot of places now are using robots and drones to fly over fields of crops. Farmers, for example, they typically, if they want to inspect their crops, they need to go out and manually do it, right? They take they take plant clippings, they check the soil manually. A lot of the stuff that goes into actually maintaining a farm and being involved with agriculture is a lot of physical labor. By adding artificial intelligence to robots and drones, they're able to optimize their yield. They're able to do some of the things that they would do manually, like analyzing their crops, right? Instead of going out into the field, taking these random samples, they can put a special sensor on a drone, and that drone can look down at the ground and it can measure things from afar. It can tell you how much water is in the soil. It can tell you if the plants are damaged. It can tell you where it can identify exactly where that is on your farm. And then you can store that data and access it later. All of this just means better yield, right? Farmers are able to get more and do less. So this is actually one of the areas where, AI is making a positive impact because farmers are being, especially right now with COVID, a lot of people who are doing farming, a lot of people who are doing very labor intensive jobs, it's already a health concern. And then there's not as many farmers as there once were. So having technology to aid them is something that will continue to increase over time. And as I mentioned, there's not as much labor that needs to be done by farmers now. And you think that farmers don't really want to work with technology, right? Other than like tractors and things like that. But in working with farmers, they actually, once they get their hands on like a drone or a robot, and once they know what they have to do, they actually enjoy it. And they end up taking on a lot more, they end up trying to find other use cases for that technology, despite not even having a technical background. One interesting fun fact, by the year 2050, the average farm is expected to generate 4.1 million data points every day, right? So not only are we going to be collecting data from smartphones, we're going to be collecting data from the farms themselves. There will be sensors everywhere. I want to show you guys a video of a startup company that I am familiar with. This company is called Drone Seed. They're based in Seattle, Washington, and they have a pretty good mission statement. I met these guys a few years ago. I want to show you all this video because they're doing some really cool things that you probably wouldn't have thought of in the agriculture space that involves drones. Uh-oh, what's going on here?
Each year, there's about 15 million acres of forest that are turned into wood products. There's been 300 million acres that have been deforested since the 1990s. That same 300 million acres at current planting rates would cost $100 billion to replant. The reason that we started this business is to make a dent in carbon emissions.
Let's make this a little clearer.
And trees far and away are our best source to do that. There are no machines currently that humans have that can do that better and more efficiently. We think that robotics is a way to make reforestation truly scalable. Our end objective is using drones to plant tree seeds. We are paid per acre to plant tree seeds, spray to protect them, and then monitor their growth.
This is a big drone. We call it Big Boy.
So we have one drone, 8 feet right here, 3 gallons payload. Imagine 15 of those on this road right here. That's how we see us able to address a large forestry unit, both for spraying as well as planting in the future.
It's a high-powered paintball gun, essentially. It's air pressure pneumatics firing a tree seed capsule into the ground. Right now, forestry companies, they spend millions recruiting the labor to go out there and plant trees. Good tree planter can replant somewhere between 800 trees a day, which is about 2 acres. One person with 15 drones could do the equivalent of 360 manual labor hours of tree.
I want to stop it here for 1 second. This is what I mean about the labor. When you add things like artificial intelligence and technology to the process, you're able to do a lot more. Get a lot more out of your results and your yield, and the human is actually doing a lot less work.
Annual labor hours of tree planting or spraying in a day.
We use a seed, so there's no nursery. There's no need for a refrigerated supply chain, and it's not an issue for us to put 80 to 200 different species into the hopper and then spray them all over the ground.
It is a step function. It's disruptive technology. We're already in beta as far as a software platform that allows one operator to manage 15 drones simultaneously. And then that takes us into a whole game changer as far as the economics of reforestation, which is what we're super excited about.
Drone Seed is the most important company working today in carbon sequestration through forestry. Do you believe that CO2 is changing the global climate? If you do, then carbon sequestration has to be a part of the global climate solution. If you have an automation company that makes it orders of magnitude less expensive to plant and grow trees, that's going to be part of the global carbon sequestration solution. It has to be. So that's, I think, the big idea for Drone Seed is, could they be a foundational player in driving down the cost of saving the climate?
Replanting 300 million acres that's been deforested since 1990, that is a major step forward in reducing carbon emissions. What you can envision for the future is that one operator managing 15 drones, replanting post-wildfire, or take it globally. There's been a lot of slash and burn agriculture. So how do you then go out and replant those in a cost-effective way? And that's where our technology comes in. At Drone Seed, we're trying not to lose the forest for the trees. Basically, like, I've got time on this planet and I want to work on a problem that's worth solving. And to me, it absolutely makes sense to go out there and focus on the biggest thing that's threatening humanity. If the environment's not working, no social, political, or economic system is working. So that's why it's so important to get in there and plant.
Cool company, right? First time I met this company, I was like, wait, you're planting trees with a drone? How is that even possible? And they have been pretty successful. and I would imagine they're going to continue to be successful. They're on the West Coast, so there's a lot of fires that happen in California, so I would imagine that they're going to be pretty busy trying to replant some of those. That isn't the only company that is involved in what is now known as precision agriculture. Because of things like AI and technology, it's almost branched off a new field called precision agriculture. A local company to us, which is called Farm Shots, they're based in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. They take satellite images of a given area of a farmer's field, and that farmer can then select which areas are damaged. And the satellites track that area over time and updates the farmer on how the crops are performing over time. Heroto is another cool company. They have a smart irrigation system that uses sensors to automatically water things, water your crops. It also monitors for different energy efficiencies and energy consumption. So it's basically like having a smart farm, if you will. And then John Deere, who most people have heard of. John Deere acquired a company a few years ago called Blue River, which was based out in California. That company was primarily focused on using something called machine learning and computer vision. Basically, they could take pictures of crops and they could start doing some sort of analysis on those crops. John Deere acquired them, and since then, they pretty much have been the reason John Deere has gone so heavy into artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence was not something John Deere particularly focused on in the early, when they first began. And up until recent, they didn't really go into that area. But after seeing some of the results that you can have by using different technologies, they got on board and they started ramping up pretty quickly. This is a rhetorical statement. This is for you all to think about. You know, how will you use AI in the future? The way we look at AI today will be drastically different than the way we look at it in the future. Today, we have a very, very broad set of use cases, but they're pretty much using the same type of techniques, if you will, right? So, you know, your phone, if you're doing facial recognition to unlock your phone, that is very similar to determining whether an image shows someone having cancer or not having cancer, right? So the way we look at AI today may be drastically different. So when you're preparing your pitches, make sure you think about that. What are some of the things that we're doing today that we take for granted that could be automated? And that may be a use case for using artificial intelligence. I wanted to pivot here because not many people have had a chance to do anything hands-on with artificial intelligence. Rhonda is going to place a link in the chat, and I want to walk you all through something to show you how you can use AI, or typically what the process looks like. This won't be something super complicated, but it is a way so you can do something interactive. So Rhonda, if you don't mind, can you put the Teachable Machine link in the chat?
Absolutely. Everyone, you should see that in your chat right now.
And Brandon, before we start that, there were a couple of questions that were in the chat.
Let me pull those up.
Yes, I was going to wait for the activity so that Brandon can go back and talk about NVIDIA and about the future of agriculture as well. So we do have a couple of questions for you lined up, Brandon, and I guess we can have you to either do the activities first or the questions.
I can do the questions. Let me pivot. Let me take the screen share off real quick. And let me see what the questions are.
All right, so the first question is, well, we have two questions actually about your time at NVIDIA. So Sipaway, you had our first question in the chat. Go ahead and ask Brandon your question.
Oh. Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
So my question for you was, how has the NVIDIA helped you to achieve your life goals?
I don't think they've helped me achieve my life goals yet. I think I have a lot of living left to do. At least I hope so. But one thing I can say about NVIDIA is they're a company that allows you to explore. When I first joined NVIDIA, I was concerned because the job that I was doing, it was very technical, right? And so that can be discouraging. But what actually happens is, NVIDIA took what they knew about me and they allowed me to work on projects that I was interested in, that I was passionate about, and grow into the role. So I would say they are helping me, kind of find my way. And if I like what I'm doing, they're going to encourage it. If I want to switch to something else, they're going to encourage it. So it's really a good place to grow.
Awesome. And Eno is with Sipaway. Eno, you also had a question to Brandon about NVIDIA as well. So be sure, when you are introducing yourself, to tell us where you're calling from, your grade, your age, and then your question for Brandon.
Absolutely. There was a second question, correct?
Yes. Eno, are you still with us with Sipaway? You can ask Brandon your question.
Okay. Oh, hi. My name is Ino. I'm from South Africa and I'm 16. Currently, I'm in grade 11. So my question was like, what inspired you to be part of NVIDIA? I don't know how to pronounce it, but like, what inspired to be part of it? Like, what gave you the edge to say like, I'm going to be part of like this job and other stuff?
Yeah, good question. So NVIDIA is the leader in artificial intelligence technology. Some of you may have heard of NVIDIA. So I always, there were always a company that were, on my short list. If I'm going to go to a company, this would be one of them. The reason I wanted to go to NVIDIA is because I knew that they were very innovative. And I also knew that not only were they innovative, they had a lot of people that were young at the company that were doing things. To me, that was important because I knew that I would go to a company and have a lot of opportunity. I would also say the thing about NVIDIA that I actually liked, and what drove me there, is the fact that every customer that I was accustomed to working with, anytime I mentioned the word AI, they would say, "Oh, NVIDIA," right? So I would say the brand name was something that influenced my decision to go to NVIDIA.
Thank you, Brandon. We do have a couple more questions. Petra actually has 2 questions for you. So Petra, if you can unmute yourself and tell us about your question. Be sure to also tell us where you're calling from, how old you are, what grade you are in, and then your questions for Brandon. They're really good questions, so take it away.
Is on mute?
Petra, are you still with us? Well, I will ask Petra's question. So Petra is from South Africa, 10th grade, 15 years old. And there were 2 really good questions. The first one, Brandon, when you were talking about agriculture, where we are now, and you would challenge us to think about, where we could potentially go in the future. Petra's question was, well, where do you think that we'll be in 10 to 15 years? What other additional advancements do you see coming about as it pertains to AI and agriculture, say in 10 to 15 years down the road? What would be your answer there?
And is the question specific to agriculture or AI in general?
It is specific to agriculture, actually. How will agriculture, do you think, be more advanced in another 10 to 15 years?
There will certainly be more data collected, so there will be more sensors. You'll start to see a lot of the process being automated, right? So the actual monitoring of the crops, not only monitoring that, having some sort of feedback mechanism where you can actually see that. If you're a farmer, you can see that information. That information is then tied to your smart irrigation system. That information is also tied to the people who are doing logistics, right? If you're a farmer, you're actually shipping this stuff somewhere. right? So how do you schedule that? How do you make sure you have the most amount of trucks? How do you reduce costs when you're shipping this stuff? So I believe the entire supply chain will start to look much differently. And then in addition to that, you'll find other use cases for some of the byproducts. For example, when I was working when I did an internship at a company that was doing biomass, right? Basically an alternative to gas for your cars. One of the things that they were doing is taking some of the like crops, like corn, for example. They were taking the corn stalk, which is the remains of the corn after the corn has been pried off. They were taking that and they were finding further use cases for it. And they would then sell that to local farmers. They would use some of it for pig slop. But eventually you started to see further use cases, right? Because they were calculating how much yield that they have, and they said, all right, well, we have all of this stuff. What can we do with it? And because of AI, they were able to use or analyze the data and figure out further use cases for the things that they were already doing. And I know Tina, I don't know if will Smithfield be talking to them at some point?
Yes.
You'll hear about a company called Smithfield, which is their food distributor, but animals have to eat food as well. So those agriculture companies will be working more closely with groups who are distributing food supplies.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandon. Petra actually had a second question. I want to see if Petra can ask this question. I'm going to see if I can get you off mute, Petra, because your second question was really good. We've got a lot of great questions from our ambassadors today. Petra, can you see if you can take yourself off mute to ask the second part of your question as it pertains to drones? All right, I will ask that question for Petra, and it's a really good one, Brandon. So, hello, Petra. Can you hear us?
So,
tell us your name, tell us where you're calling from and your age, and then tell us your question about the drones.
I am Petra Marshall, doing grade 10, and I am 15 years old from South Africa. My second question is, using drones and machines is very cool, but won't it decrease job opportunities for farmers? And if yes, how you're working to avoid that?
Excellent question, Petra.
Yeah, great question. So with any type of, with almost all, technology, you will see, I'm sorry? Okay, sorry. So with all technology, you will see that it does have, it can pose an opportunity to decrease jobs, but it also can increase jobs, right? So a lot of the manual labor that a farmer would be doing, now they get a chance to do less manual labor, but they get to increase the amount of yield, right? They're able to do more with less. That's really important. So think about it this way. You use artificial intelligence to augment humans, right? You don't use AI to replace humans necessarily, because there's certain things that AI can't do, right? And that's why for the foreseeable future, AI and humans will continue to coexist. So rather than focusing on things that like decreasing the amount of farmers, I would look at it a different way and look at it as though the farmers are being more efficient in what they're accustomed to doing.
Great perspective, Brandon. Excellent. So we will move on, I think, to your activity. I'm going to put the link back in the chat. So for those that are able to access that link, it is in the chat now, Brandon, for everyone to reference.
Perfect. I'm going to go back to screen share here, just so I can walk everyone through what it is that we're looking at. So if you click on the link, you'll see something like this. Let me hide this. You'll see something like this. This is Google. It actually works with Google Cloud. This shows you how to do AI. There's 3 options. We're just going to focus on the first one called Image Project. So if you just click on that, I'll explain a little bit more. So here we have class 1. So when you're doing AI, you need to label what it is that you're doing, right? In the case of Facebook, for example, you need to label who your friend is in order for Facebook to detect who your friends are. So right now, I want you to press the webcam button, and I'm gonna do the same. Let's see here. I'm going to hold record, and I'm just gonna take pictures of myself. We're gonna say this class is Brandon. We're labeling this as Brandon. Then you can go down, create another class, and we're gonna call this one, I don't know, phone. So it's gonna do this. The reason I'm moving it around is so we can add variability, right? If you can see different views of something, it allows you to get a more accurate representation of what that thing is. So we're gonna just call this one phone. All right. Now that I've labeled those 2 things, I can train it. So training is a process that happens with AI. And this is where it's looking at all of these images. And is it loading here? It's looking at all of the images. And it is making a representation of those images, right? What this is doing is saying, all right, well, these pictures that were named Brandon, this is what they look like. And this other group of pictures were called phone. And the AI is trying to determine what makes this unique, what makes this Brandon, and what makes this phone. And it gives me a model, which is a representation of that thing. So if I go here, this is testing my model. This is testing what the model thinks to be Brandon or phone. So if you see here, it's saying this is 100% chance this is Brandon. If I do this, you see it starts to change a little bit because it notices that this is a phone because I labeled it. Now, if I move it, or if I have like partially phone, it might not be sure what it is. But this is how we do AI. This is something that happens every time you're doing, like I said earlier, with some of those recommendation engines. If you're watching a movie and there's a suggestion to you, essentially there's a model of you, right? Every time you listen to a song, that if you like that song, if you listen to that song several times, if you replay that song, you're essentially training a model. So eventually, if you're listening to Apple Music or Spotify or Netflix or whatever you're watching, eventually they can say, oh, you like this music. Let me suggest a song that's similar to this. And this is how AI works. You can toy around with this. This not only works with pictures, this works with audio as well. But if you don't have a like physical device to do this on, you could see it here, and it's a really simple way of training and showing you how AI works. If I wanted to, I could take this model, I can export it, and I can put it on this little device that I have here. And if I plug a camera into this device, it will read from this device and it will say whether or not this is Brandon, or it'll say if it's a phone. There's several applications for that, right? Think about a doorbell, for example. If someone comes to your door and you want to know whether or not it's, one of your friends or it's a stranger, you could take those images, label all of your friends, and when they come up to the door, the camera can look at them and say, this is a 99% chance that's Brandon, or I don't know who that is. You can even make it so that you get an alert when that person gets to your doorbell, right? Maybe once a stranger comes to your doorbell, a text message is sent to you or an email is sent to you. This is just, again, a really simple way of showing you how AI is used. Are there any questions about this tool? Is there anything in the chat, Rhonda? Because I can't see it.
Not presently. No questions presently, Brandon.
Okay.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's free and it's easy to get started. You can do this with pictures. You can do this with audio as well.
And everyone, we'll send this out to you all after the meeting, so that after the session, so that you can have this and you can play with this. So thanks for sharing that one, Brandon. Teachable machine.
Yep. And I'll be sharing the presentation. So all of these links will be in the presentation to anything that I've shared today.
Okay, awesome.
And there's another one. Can you post this link as well, the quick draw one?
Sure.
This is another one. I believe this is by Google as well. So this is pretty cool. This is a way of, it's crazy how the human mind works, right? Oftentimes we think it's really easy to explain things. We think it's easy to explain, what is a basketball? What is an apple? Like, what does that look like? So unfortunately, computers don't know any of that stuff. So you have to train them so that they understand what those things are. So really the first form of artificial intelligence is a human, right? We are computers, right? This computer is not going to do anything that a human didn't program it to do. So in taking that logic, if you go to this site here, Quick Draw, the Quick Draw website, you can go over to play a game. And this game is going to, I'll go here for a second. This game is going to ask you to draw certain things and do it really quickly. And the goal is for the AI to predict what it is that you're trying to draw, right? So I don't know how to draw a windmill, so I'm probably going to get this one wrong. So, but I have 20 seconds to try to draw a windmill. And you can see here at the bottom, it's trying to guess what it is. I'm just gonna do something just to show you. So you'll notice that it times out. So this is gonna not give me any points for that. And then it's gonna ask me to do something again. It's gonna say, hey, draw yoga, right? So there's about 6 things up here. Draw a raccoon. So once you get to the end, draw a wine bottle. All right, that's all 6 of them. Oops. I guess they want me to draw this wine bottle. So it guessed it, right? It gave me a check. It says, oh, you're trying to draw a wine bottle. So what I just did was train this system similar to how I just did with the phone and my face. I was training the system to understand what I look like. This is doing the same thing, but it's relying on you and how you draw things to train the system. So millions of people have done this. And what you'll see is this, a data set. This is all the examples of people who have tried to draw things. If you ask someone to draw an apple, this is the many ways that people have drawn apples. Not only are the shapes different, how they drew them are different. Meaning some people may have started on the left side of the apple and some people started on the right side of the apple. Some people may have used a stem, some people may not have used a stem. Some people may have drew round apples and some may have drawn apples with a bite in the side. This is really interesting, right? Because all people process things differently. Like when you say the word apple, we assume that we are talking about the same thing, but it's not that simple. So that variability is why AI is hard, right? This is why you need so much data. This is 139,000 samples just so this AI can guess what an apple is, right? This is a lot of images. But eventually, the more people that draw this, the more accurate this model becomes, which means that it can start predicting whether or not you're joining Apple much quicker. So these are just two games you can play around with if you have any interest in doing some things with AI. I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes for additional questions, and I'll stop screen sharing right now and turn things back over to you, Rhonda.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon. How many of you all enjoyed those activities? Raise your hands if you all enjoyed those activities. Those are pretty cool, right? Thank you so much to Brandon for sharing so many wonderful things about artificial intelligence with us. I was a student with you all ambassadors today, so I consider myself one of the ambassadors as well. That was so very cool. And as we had mentioned, we're going to make sure that we send these links out to you all so that you can play with them yourselves in your free time. Did anyone else have any last minute questions for Brandon? Because we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to ask him some questions if you have anything else. And we certainly want to thank him so very much for all of the information once again that he shared. So thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
If you don't have any other questions, I want to make sure, of course, as we always do, as we thank Brandon again, we want to make sure that we're getting your feedback, right? So we're going to be, I'm going to put some information in the chat once again for you all to be able to fill out your surveys and provide us with feedback. And for those of you all who may not be able to fill out the survey with us right here in the meeting, that is perfectly okay, because we'll make sure that we send you all something separately so that you can also have some input into these sessions and what you guys liked about it and what you guys would like to see in further sessions. So, but I want you to remember that there are several events. We had mentioned that this is only the second of what is going to be a 7-part series for this venture capital STEM bootcamp. And so you got to sign up for the rest of them. So last week there was a session, and I know several of you all were in the session last week. And so we're going to have another session next week. There are going to be a couple of other sessions kind of going forward. So we actually have one of our speakers that was with us last week. I want to make sure that I acknowledge Ms. Zana. Zana has joined us again. Everybody wave to Zana. You all remember Ms. Zana Clark? She was cooking with you all last week, and she loved it so much that she wanted to join again. So Zana did join us today, and so we wanted to acknowledge her. But again, we want you all to fill out your surveys. So those are the link for the surveys. That is also another link there for just some general feedback. So take those links if you can and fill out that information for us, because we want to make sure that we're hearing from you. We want to make sure we're hearing from you. All of you all, I've seen so many familiar faces. Eno Sipaway, thank you all for your questions. Petra, you always have some great questions to ask. So you all, yes, high five, because I'm shouting you out. There's so many others that we want to shout out this morning. Sandiso, we see you. Chantel, Milazi, Michelle, Siabonga, Junior, you all, we appreciate you all joining. So just make sure that you're filling out that survey so that we can get some feedback from you, okay? And again, just in case you all are not already, we want to make sure you're following us on social media. So there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Twitter. We want to make sure that you all are following us. Take pictures as you all are interacting on these sessions and post them. There's some hashtags that you all can use as well. We want to make sure that we're hearing from you, okay? We want to make sure we're hearing from you. Tashia, I see you. You always come and join us, so we appreciate you as well. To close out, I want to turn it over to Miss Tina so that she can continue to get us excited about what's to come. Because like I said, there are so many different sessions that are going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. Next week, we have someone that's going to be coming to talk to us about finance, about leadership. And then we're going to have someone to talk to us, Ms. Jasmine Davis, about finance. Brandon and Ms. Tina already mentioned that we're going to have Smithfield Foods coming to us. We're going to have a very special session that is just going to be with Ms. Tina. It's a masterclass with Tina Taylor. That's coming up in the middle of November. Then, of course, we're preparing for the pitch day that is going to be on December 12th. And we're going to we're gonna close out the year with another jam session. How many of you all were able to attend the jam session earlier this year? It was in the August timeframe. Yes, I see several of you all that were able to attend it. We're gonna have another one that's gonna be even better. There are gonna be more artists that are gonna be coming back, and there are gonna be more artists that are gonna be joining us. So we have a lot of fun things planned. Ms. Tina, I'm gonna turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about that and to close us out for the day.
Well, one, I want to thank everyone for attending the event. I know we're 1 minute over, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to, one, thank Zana for coming back and wanted to make sure that, one, you have access to her. So if there's any questions about some of the things that you all worked on last week, feel free to reach out to her. We sent the information out post-session. I want to thank Brandon for Brandon lives in California, but he's back on the East Coast. So for imparting his knowledge on artificial intelligence, as I said, this is something that is all around us and it impacts agriculture in so many ways. So as you are preparing your thoughts around your pitch, so it's two things. One, you have access to every speaker. So if you can't get a hold of them, make sure that you get in contact with us so that you can ask your questions. Miss Susan Chapman-Hughes, if you all went to her masterclass in September, she said, how can you get in contact with her? Get a LinkedIn account. This is one way in which you can broaden your network and you can start thinking about and asking questions to a lot of experts that's out there. As you're trying to figure out what you want to do in life, what type of careers, that's an excellent platform to start seeing what's available and get questions asked that you may need answers to. More importantly, as you're preparing for next Saturday, we have Carrice Anderson. Carrice Anderson, she is American, but she lives in South Africa, in Johannesburg. She used to work for McKinsey, and now she works for, she's a senior partner with, a senior associate with Korn Ferry. And she's going to talk about leadership. And leadership is understanding the leader within you. Before you can cultivate ideas and start collaborating, we always talk about teamwork, right? And what happens when we start working on projects together? You go through these phases of forming, norming, storming, and then performing. And that's how you develop solutions. So we want to make sure that we unlock the leader in you as well as those innovative ideas, because we're looking for some amazing things to come out of you on December 12th. So thank you. We're going to wrap this up. Hopefully you had just an hour filled with information that is unique and different from what you may have thought about artificial intelligence. We're going to continue those discussions in prior sessions, and make sure you tune in and also start brushing up on your math. We're going to have Miss Marafi Mulatto that was also in our symposium. She's going to do a funding discussion. So when you're pitching your idea, you have to know your numbers. Miss Jasmine Davis from Wells Fargo, she's going to teach you the basics of finance, walking you through Finance 101 and why that is important. It's more than just understanding your budget, but how do you make money when you have a solution? So we're getting all this stuff geared up for you. And I hope you have a wonderful and blessed weekend. And we look forward to seeing you back on Saturday next week at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. In South Africa. Just look at your time zones and keep in mind, we will also give you a signal too when we go through daylight savings time, because it will change.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Waving goodbye to you all. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Be blessed, be well, be safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.